Carnival's new private island with Celebration Key in the Bahamas is getting a lot of attention because it's its new private island experience. And if you're like me, you looked at photos and videos of it that have come out so far and thought to yourself, my goodness, this is a huge ripoff of Perfect Day at Coco Key. And listen, I get it. This is all about competition. You're going to find what works. And Royal Caribbean's private island with Perfect Day at Coco Key has been the de facto standard since it came out. I mean, ever since then, my goodness, I think every other private island has looked antiquated. So, to Carnival's credit, they've tried to one-up Royal Caribbean by taking a lot of their ideas. And I was looking at some first photos that came out. Cruise Critic posted some photos. Our good friends at Travel Spree posted a walkthrough video of the island. And, we're getting some good coverage here of what's happening. And I got to be honest with all of you, I'm going to share my hot take here of what I'm seeing, because it's really eye-opening in some cases of what Carnival has done with this island, and I just had to share all this. So this is my hot take, Royal Caribbean fanboy view of what Carnival is doing. I'm not saying I'm being unbiased here at all. So I ran through some of the articles and videos that I've seen of Celebration Key, and I got to tell you a couple things. First of all, the pier and even the trams look exactly like Coco Key. I mean, they've got the shade that goes over the pier that Coco Key has. The tram type is the exact same vehicle. I mean, clearly, Carnival went to the exact same company. I mean, granted, I don't know how many companies of tram vehicles there are, but it is the exact same one. But one thing that I noticed that Carnival did that I think is a mistake is their trams are for only one half of the island, and they have another tram service for the other half of the island. So basically, if you're looking at a map of Celebration Key, you've got the left side of the island and the right side of the island, but you have to switch trams if you want to go from the left to the right. On Royal Caribbean's Perfect Day, it's one tram for them all. It does a circle loop, and you're good to go, which seems to be like a good idea, because it would be really annoying to have to switch trams just to go from one side of the island to the other. It's not that big of an island. I mean, it's big, but it's not like, we're not talking like city here. I think that's a really strange choice. But by far, the two things that really jumped out to me about Celebration Key is the fact there's not unlimited food and the drink packages don't work here. I mean, that is really surprising. In Travel Spree's video, they rented a cabana at one of the places, I think the adult-only pool, and they showed the menu of the food. They have 12-piece chicken wings for $18.99, grilled fish tacos, 3 pieces, $14.99, barbecue burger, $17.99, classic burger, $16.99. I mean, they're charging money for food on top of the cost of the cabana, where at Coco Key, when you rent a cabana, the food is included. In fact, it's very hard to find extra cost food at Coco Key. I mean, obviously there's admission costs to the beach club and Hideaway Beach, but once you're in there, the food is included. In fact, the only place that costs extra straight up is Captain Jack's, which offers wings and fries, and I really don't know anybody who's ever spent the money on it. I mean, you all know sometimes I don't mind spending some money on my Royal Caribbean cruise, but that has never been a place where I've thought this is really worth spending extra money to get wings and fries. But anyway, I think this is a terrible idea. I mean, this is a terrible precedent anyway. I hope Royal Caribbean does not copy this. But the idea that you don't have if you have a drink package at your private island, which by all intents and purposes is an extension of your cruise ship, that to me seems bizarre. And I know that Carnival's gotten a lot of flack about the fact that they are charging for those food items and the drink packages don't work there. And it's really eye-opening because Royal Caribbean doesn't charge for these things. I just couldn't believe that. And worse than that is the pricing on that. I mean, you've got a classic burger for $17. That, to me, is an insane price on your private island. If you're going to charge for food, you want to charge okay, it's going to be, $3, $5. All right, it's a nominal fee to avoid food waste. You know what? I can see past that. But at these prices, it seems extremely egregious. And these are the prices that he's sharing, by the way, in Travel Spree's video for their cabana, which they already paid like $800 for it. Really surprising from that. One other thing I wanted to talk about the cabanas I noted here was that they have no walls. Now, my problem with that's not a cabana. That's more of I don't know what it is, but it's not a cabana. One thing I like about cabanas at Royal Caribbean is that you have 3 walls. That provides 2 things. One is privacy. I mean, there are curtains. Curtains never work the way you're supposed to work because there's oftentimes a breeze that's going on there. And anyway, they don't protect like a wall does. And number 2, walls, of course, provide shade. When you don't have the curtains up, and again, the curtains are not opaque, but, it's not the same thing. They don't provide nearly as much shade as a wall does. And depending on where the sun's position is, it could be very sunny there. This reminds me a lot of the casitas that are on the cruise ships, because the casitas have the same problem. And this is why I don't like the casitas, quite frankly, is that they don't have any walls there. The cabanas at Celebration Key have a curtain you can draw, but in every situation I've ever been to where I'm in a cabana and I have the curtain walls never work. I mean, just the wind just like rips them apart. It's hard to keep them like together. If it rains, they really don't do anything. And then of course there's the shade factor. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the fact that there aren't any walls. To me, they're not cabanas then. They're just something else in between, but I was really surprised by that. Based on what I've seen, I really think that Celebration Key is a nice attempt to copy Coco Key, and it is their phase 1, and they promise a phase 2 is coming, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. To be fair, when Coco Key opened up, they added other things later on, like Coco Beach Club and Hideaway Beach and whatnot. But I really think that while they do have some areas that are very nice, and I like some of their pools, and the fact that they have a swim up bar, they also have the swings you can sit at, which is a nice feature. But ultimately, I'm unimpressed by some of the choices they've made. And this is like the new Carnival, between like charging for food and drinks at their island and their new loyalty program overhaul. Like, it's really surprising, quite frankly, that this is what's flying for them. And that's probably the most interesting aspect of the entire experience, that they are going in that direction, and it remains to be seen how profitable it'll be. But it just really took me aback. I think there is reason to believe that with phase 2 and some of the ideas they'll have to expand the island, they'll have ways to obviously revise and refinish and maybe make it even better like that. And ultimately, it is definitely better than what they had before with some of their other private islands. I think that, again, Coco Key really did set a standard for the entire cruise industry for what a private island experience is. And clearly what we're seeing here with Celebration Key, and even to a lesser extent, Lighthouse Key with Disney, has been like their first attempts to, perfect day-eyes their islands. I know that Norwegian is going to be doing some changes to their island as well. But in the meantime, what we have here with Celebration Key is, it's nice. I wouldn't mind spending my day here, but I would be constantly reminded that, the fact that food and drink costs extra on here, but not on Royal Caribbean. To be fair, though, with the drinks, obviously, if you have a drink package on Royal Caribbean, it works on the island. I'm not talking about the drinks in general, but I am really surprised by that. I did like, though, that they said their cabana was only like $700, which is a really good price for it compared to what Royal Caribbean charges for their cabanas these days at Perfect Day. But I'm just surprised by their food and beverage direction they have there more than anything. The rest of the island, in terms of like the pools and the beaches, look wonderful. I mean, as someone who loves pools, I think the 2 different pool areas they have, one for the adults, one for the families, looks lovely. And it seems like they've gotten a good choice with all of that. I don't know if it's heated or not. That's a good question, quite frankly. But I'll tell you this much. As a Royal Caribbean fan, am I looking over the fence and thinking to myself, my goodness, I really wish I could go there? Not really. I mean, I wouldn't mind going there, but I don't have FOMO when it comes to looking at what Celebration Key is. At least my hot take. Again, I haven't seen any of it myself, and I do agree that in a lot of cases, seeing it in person is very different than seeing it on the web. But in a lot of cases also, when you see it on the web and you get excited and get hyped up, that does help, and I'm just not getting that vibe from this, quite frankly. I think it's a nice attempt, but I still think, based on what I'm seeing, Coco Key is still the best out there. Let me know, though, in the comments for this particular podcast if my hot take you think is appropriate, or am I completely off base? All right, friends, time to answer listener emails. This is the part of the episode where I answer the emails you sent me. You can always email me your questions, matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com. First email is from Tom Horner of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. My question has to do with future cruises from Baltimore. As you know, Royal Caribbean announced several months ago that as of October 26th, there'll be no more cruises from Baltimore. I wanted to know, since that announcement, have you guys heard any rumors about a possible return, perhaps in 2027? This is a big loss for us who live in the Mid-Atlantic region and who enjoyed cruising out of Baltimore. As you know, far more than Royal than I do, in my humble opinion, the best we can hope for is a return for the summer sailing season. I don't see Royal Caribbean returning to cruising year-round. Your thoughts, please. Tom, the good news is the rumor mill seems very strongly pointed that you'll have seasonal cruises there. So as you mentioned, summer cruises from Baltimore. I know that in some comments, I'm not sure this is necessarily a smoking gun, but people have posted on Michael Bailey's Facebook page, Michael Bailey being the CEO of Royal Caribbean, and he commented back that they would be doing at least summer cruises there. I think that's probably the direction Royal's going to go in, where they'll offer summer cruises. Because remember, the cruises right now only go through like April of 27. So it's possible that you'll see cruises in the summer and then you'll take a break again in the winter and so forth and whatnot. My guess, Tom, I'm not 100% sure, but that's where the rumor mill is pointing to. So I don't want to give you any false hope, but let's hope for the best there. Next email is from Jamie Andrews from Belfast, Northern Ireland. My partner and I are booked on our 4th Royal Caribbean cruise on board Legend of the Seas, September of 2026. We cannot wait. Do you know when we can anticipate further information or reveals about the new Icon-class ship? And given Royal Caribbean's recent announcements, are there any plans for private destinations in Europe or the Med? Man, good question. So when it comes to new ships, Royal Caribbean likes to point the focus on the new hotness now. So as of the recording of this podcast, that is Star of the Seas. And you'll pretty much be on the Star of the Seas hype train until the rest of the year, quite frankly. As we get closer to the beginning of next year, you'll start to get more attention for Legend. But I think that's really going to be the direction there. So we have to wait a little bit longer for that. As for a private island or destination in the Med or Europe, I have not heard of any plans there. I've heard rumors of other places, but not the Med or Europe. So I'm going to tell you that no. I've heard nothing on that front. That doesn't mean anything. I appreciate the compliment, but for what it's worth, I've not heard anything about any kind of private destinations within Europe or the Med there. Next email is from Stephen White. Our cruise arrives back in Seattle at 6 a.m. Taking our own luggage off to feel we'd be able to get to the airport by 10 a.m. for an 11:30 a.m. flight. Okay, so first of all, the 6 a.m. arrival time, let me just clear something up. When you look at any Royal Caribbean ship, and it says the ship is going to get there, on the schedule, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., something like that, that's not accurate. That's not the time you can, let me rephrase that. That is not the time you can get off the ship. That is the time where theoretically, and emphasis on theoretically, the ship will actually start beginning docking at the cruise terminal. Remember, when a cruise ship docks at a terminal, first of all, it takes time to actually dock, like it needs to get tied up, secured, whatnot. Okay. Then after that, customs and U.S. officials need to clear the ship. That is not a minute. That takes them a long time to go in there. Depends on the official. Sometimes they'll do just a kind of quick check. Sometimes they do a very intensive check. So basically, you're not getting off the ship at 6 a.m. I think, if you get off, if you're cleared by 7, that'd be a conservative bet for when you might be able to get off the ship there. So for your 11:30 a.m. flight, because you want to get there by 10, I would say yes. 11:30 a.m. is doable. Remember, you've got to be out of your cabins by 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is a good start. So if you're off the ship at 8 o'clock, which is reasonable, very easy to do that, how long does it take you to get through the cruise terminal and to the airport? If it takes you an hour, that's 9 o'clock, 9:30. You're still there 2 hours beforehand. I think you'll be okay on that one. I would say as long as you hustle off the ship, you won't be off at 6. You'll be off closer. If you wanted to be the first ones off the ship, it'll be closer to like 7:30 a.m. But even at 8 o'clock, I think you'd still be able to get to the airport with plenty of time. 11:30 is totally fine. I thought you were going to ask for a 10 a.m. flight, which I said no. But for 11:30 a.m., I think that would not be a problem at all. I would probably book that for myself. So just hustle off the ship, basically. And last email today is coming to us from G. Bo. I hope this email finds you well. I have a question regarding Star of the Seas. I'm interested in purchasing inaugural season merch when I'm on Star later this year. How long does the inaugural season merchandise stay in the gift shop? What is considered the inaugural season? Good question. My answer is, in my experience, Royal Caribbean usually treats it as the first year. I can't promise you this, but generally speaking, within the first year of the sailing, you'll have inaugural season merchandise. There is not usually, I'm trying to really think on Icon, was there ever like inaugural, like maiden voyage merchandise? I don't think so. So it's really going to be like inaugural season kind of stuff there. So if you're going on within a calendar or 365 days since the first sailing, I think you'll be okay with there. I think it's hard to promise you one way or another, but generally speaking, they like to sell that merchandise over a long period of time there. So thank you to everybody for checking out this episode. You can always email me your questions by sending them to Matt, M-A-T-T, at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, Matt at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Until the next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.